Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So today we are going to be making a corset with a Basque waistline. So if this is something that interests you, kindly stay tuned to the end of this tutorial. Thank you. So to start with, we are going to be drafting the pattern on the pattern paper. So I'm going to go ahead now and start marking 1 inch from the beginning of the pattern paper. And this 1 inch is going to serve as a starting point. So once I finish marking this 1 inch, I'm going to go ahead and connect it together with a straight line. So after doing that, I'll place my tape at that 1 inch. So after placing it there, I'm going to insert my bust point measurement. My bust point is 9.5 inches. Then I will insert the under bust, which is 13 inches. Insert the waistline, which is 16 inches, and I'm going to insert the top length, which is 25 inches. So I'm going to do that and form a straight line on those points. So I'll go ahead now and label the lines, the shoulder line, and this right here is the bust points, the under bust, the waistline, and the top length. So once I'm done with that, I'm going to go ahead. On my bust points, I will go up by 1.5 inch. So that is going to be my chest line. So I'm going to form a straight line on that 1.5 inch. So I'm going to label it as well as chest line, which is CL. So after labeling it, I'll go to my shoulder line. So on the shoulder line, I'm going to insert my back measurement, my shoulder measurement, which is 14 inches divided by 2, 7 inches. So I'm going to insert that. For that 7 inches, I'll go down by 1 inch. Then I'm going to mark my neck width, which is 3 inches, although I do not need it. So I'm going to connect the neck width to the 1 inch that I came down with, and that's my shoulder slope. And I'm going to form a straight line from the shoulder slope down to the chest line. That's the line that indicates where I will insert my armhole. So on the chest line, I'm going to mark my bust point divided by 4, which is 8.25 inch. Find the midpoint of that line, that is 3.5, going by 0.5 inch. Then I'm just going to place my armhole curve there to form my armhole. So once I'm done with that, I'm going to go ahead to mark out my dart line. So the dart line I'm going to be using is 3.5 inches. That's my nipple to nipple measurement divided by 4. So I'll mark that on the bust points, on the under bust, on the waistline, and on the top length. So I'm going to take my ruler and connect those 4 points together with a straight line. So after marking that straight line, I'll go to the waistline and go out on both sides by 0.5 inch. Then I'll go to the bust point and come down by 1 inch. I'll go to the top length and go up by 1 inch. Then I'm going to connect those points together to form the dart legs. So on the under bust, I'm going to go out from that dart legs by 0.5 inch on both sides. So once I do that, I'm going to take my ruler. I'm just going to form a straight line down to the top length. So after that, I'll take my armhole curve and form my neck depth, even though I do not need it. I just want to use it as reference. So the shoulder slope, I'm just going to find the midpoint. Then I'm just going to use my ruler to connect that midpoint down to the bust point. So after doing that, I'll take my tape and measure the distance between the bust point and the under bust. So whatever I have there, I'm just going to measure it around the bust point to form a circle. So the next thing I'll just to measure the distance between the two dart legs on the under bust. So once I get the measurement, I'm going to divide it into two. So I add 1.5 inches and dividing it into two. I'm not dividing it into two equal parts. One side is going to be bigger than one. So I'm going to give this the side that goes to the side front 1 inch and the side that goes to the center front, I'll give it half an inch. Mind you, I'm marking this on the circle on the circle at the top of the corset. So once I do that, I'm going to use my hammer curve to connect those 2 points together to my bust points. So guys, after that, I'll move to my chest line. So you can decide to maintain that chest line, but I'm going to go up by 1 inch. So after going up by 1 inch, I will come in by half an inch, and that's going to serve as the distance between the two cups, the distance between the two corsets. So from that circle, that one half an inch we came in at the circle, I'm going to connect it together to that half inch we came in at the center front. Then I'm going to sit my armhole curve properly the way I'm sitting it now. Make sure it's sitting rightly so that there will be room for your boobs to sit when you finish making it. So that's what I just did now. So on the other side, I'm going to go ahead to measure the distance between this armhole. So whatever I get there, I'm going to divide it into two. So I'm just going to mark out the midpoint, and at that midpoint, I'll come down by half an inch. So once I get come down by half an inch, I'm going to go ahead and mark my new chest line there. So at that half an inch, I'm going to connect it together again to the other side of the cup at the upper part. So after connecting it together, I'll sit my arm of curve again properly like the way I did the other time. So I'm going to connect it together like so. So I should have done this before creating my cuff. So I'm going to use a cuff to connect the dart part of the under bust straight to the 1 inch that I came down with on the bust points, the way I'm connecting it now. So once I'm done with that, our corset is almost ready. So the next thing I'll do is to insert the circumference measurement. So I'll go ahead and insert my bust circumference, which is 8.25 inches. Then I'm going to mark the distance between the two cups. So I will insert it there, and I'm going to add 1.5 inch as seam allowance. So I'll go to the waistline again. So I'm going to insert my waist circumference measurement. So after inserting that, I'm going to go ahead and measure the distance of the darts that we are cutting off. So I'm going to add that. Then I will go ahead and add the 1.5 inch seam allowance. I'll repeat the same for the hip measurement. So we are inserting our hip measurement to the top length. The hip measurement we are working with is 10 inches. Then I'll add the dart we are cutting off to it, and I'm going to add 1.5 inch as our seam allowance. So after doing that, I'm just going to use my ruler to connect those points together so we know where we are going to be cutting off. So the moment I finish connecting it together, I'll go ahead and use my scissors to cut it out. So guys, these are my front panel. So I'm going to go ahead now to label it 1 and 2, the two cups. Then I'm going to label the center front and the side front as well. So I'm going to go ahead and set aside the cups. Then I will join the center front and the side front together because I want to make the the basic waistline effect. So I'm going to use my masking tape to join together. So guys, after joining it together, I'll go down on the waistline by 2 inches. So after going down by 2 inches, I'm going to connect the 2 inches down to the top length in a straight line to how I want it to be. So I want a rectangular Basque effect. So this is why I'm doing it like this. If you want a triangular one, you are going to connect that line straight to your center front. So I'm just going to cut out the side like this, and this is what I have. So I'm going to go ahead now to cut out the back panel. So for this back panel, I'm not going to be inserting zipper allowance because we are going to be lacing up the back panel. So I'm going to use the front panel to trace out the back panel. Mind you, the length of the back panel is not going to be the same as the front panel. So I'm just going to mark the length as that 2 inches that I came down from the waistline. So that's going to be the length of the back panel. So after tracing everything out like that, I'm just going to go ahead and cut it out. So I'm going to label it back. So remember I said we are going to lace it up. So I'm going to mark 1.5 inch at the center back. So that is what I'm marking out. That's where we are going to cut out to create space for our lacing at the back. So I'm going to cut that out now, and we are practically done with our drafting. So guys, this is the back panel, this is the front panel, and this right here are the two cups. So I'm going to go ahead now and draft all these on my fabric. So guys, I've gone ahead to cut out every of this pattern on my fabric, and as you can see, I used a different fabric for the cups, and that's because I want to make a design on it. So I left 1/2 inch space on the two cups, so which I'm going to use to join it together. Then for the front panel at the cup side, there is 1/2 inch allowance. Then at the upper part as well, there's 1/2 inch allowance. By the down part, I marked 1 inch allowance, which I'm going to use to turn it. Then at the back panel, the top has 1/2 inch allowance, and the down part has 1 inch allowance. I've gone ahead to cut out the lining as well. So the first thing I'm going to do now is to start working on my cups. So as you can see, I marked out exact measurements on the cups. When I say exact measurements, I mean the exact measurement of the pattern paper on the two wording. So I'm going to go ahead now and take my wording to my machine and just sew it together with my zigzag machine. So I'll do the same for the other cup as well. So guys, these are my two wording after I've joined them together with my zigzag machine. This is what I have. So I'll do the same for the fabric. So after doing the same for the fabric, I'm just going to notch both cups. I'm going to press it open. Then I'm going to use my tailor's arm and iron to place the wording inside the fabric. So guys, after doing that, this is exactly what I have. So I'm going to set this aside now and start working on the main bodies. So the first thing I'm going to do now is that I'm going to remove the pins on the wording. So on the fabric, the pins that is joining the pattern paper to the fabric. So after doing that, I'm just going to go ahead now to take this strip, and this is what I'm going to use as my my boning casing. So I'm going to go ahead and mark out the lines that I'm going to use for my boning casing. This is the center front. Then I'll mark the one at the bottom of each of the cup parts. So that is what I'm doing now. So the number of elastic casing you make depends on what you want. So guys, I've gone ahead to join my boning casing to my clothes, to the front panel. I've joined it to the back panel as well. So I'm going to go ahead now to take my cups. So I'm going to place it and align it properly on the fabric. I'm going to go ahead now to pin it round. So once I pin it round the fabric, I'll take it to the machine and sew it down. So I'll sew the two cups together to the fabric. So guys, I've gone ahead to join the two cups to the main fabric. So the next thing I'm going to do that everything I did on the main fabric, I'm going to do the same for the lining. So I've gone ahead to do the same on the lining, and I'm going to place the lining and the fabric on each other, making sure that the right side are facing each other, and I'm going to join it together on the neck like so. I'll flip it over, top stitch, and give it a good press. So this is what I have done at this point. I've gone ahead to give it a good press after top stitching it. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to insert my boning into each of these boning casing. So I'm going to measure the boning, and after measuring it, I will insert each boning into each boning casing, making sure that there is half an inch allowance at the down part. This half an inch is what I will use to sew the front, the lining and the fabric together. So I will join it together like this and sew the lining and the fabric at the down, then at each of the side of the Basque effect. Then I'll turn it out on the side and give it a good press. I'm going to insert the boning into the boning casing of the back panel. I'm going to flip the lining as well, join it at the down part, then use this side to turn it out. So after doing that, this is what I have. This boning is proving stubborn, but it's going to sit by fire by force. So after doing that, I'm going to place the back panel on the front panel. I'll make sure I pin the sides together and take it to my machine. Remember, we left 1.5 inch allowance when we were cutting out the pattern. So that's what we are going to go ahead and use now to join the two sides together. So I'm going to join that together with 1.5 inch, and I will do the same for the other side. So guys, after that, this is what I have. So the next thing I'm going to do is to fold in the opening at the back panel, the center back. I will fold it in with half an inch. Then I'm going to use my iron to press it down. So after ironing it down, this is what I have. So I'm going to measure the distance I want between each loop. So I want 2 inches distance, and that's what I am trying to mark out. So these are the loops that I've created, and I'm going to insert each loop into each of the distance that I marked when I chalked it. So guys, I'll take it to my machine now and just sew it down like this. I will do that for the other side as well. And guys, we are practically done with our clothes. I'll wait for the mannequin now. So guys, this is the final look of our Basque waistline effects corset. This is how it looks on the front side, and I'll show you the back side shortly. Thank you so much guys for watching this tutorial. Please do well to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and share this video to your friends as well. I'll see you in the next one guys. Bye.